At a certain point in life, many of us begin to feel the weight of things, not just the physical belongings we've accumulated, but also the emotional clutter, mental strain, and obligations we no longer wish to carry. For those of us entering our 70s and beyond, there is no better time to reflect on what truly matters. After all, the golden years are meant to be lived with clarity, peace, and joy, not chaos. Minimalism, often seen as a trend for younger generations, actually holds deep and transformative power for older adults. It's not about deprivation or stark empty spaces, it's about intentional living. It's about letting go of what no longer serves us to make room for what does. This story is for those who want to live more peacefully, more purposefully, and more freely. If you've ever felt burdened by too much stuff, overwhelmed by unnecessary commitments, or drained by emotional weight, this journey toward simplicity might be the gentle key you've been looking for. Let's explore the minimalist lifestyle, not as a fad, but as a way to rediscover what it means to live well. 1. Minimalism in material possessions, clearing the clutter of time. One of the most heartfelt memories I carry from childhood is watching my grandmother navigate life after my grandfather passed away. She was a strong woman, graceful and loving, but when he left, something inside her changed. She couldn't bring herself to let go of anything that belonged to him. His old transistor radio that barely played anything but static, his worn-out bicycle leaning against the garage wall, and the winter coats he hadn't worn in years. All of it remained, untouched, as though frozen in time. Each item seemed to hold a piece of him. Letting go to her felt like erasing his presence. But over time, the house began to change. The living room, once full of warmth, became cluttered with things no one used. New furniture couldn't fit. Guests no longer felt comfortable sitting. Even walking through the hallway felt like navigating a maze of memories. Slowly, the home they built together started to feel less like a place for living and more like a monument to what had been lost. I used to wonder, quietly, if he were still alive, would he want her to live like this? Would he want her to be buried under layers of grief disguised as belongings? Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. In truth, it can be one of the most loving things we do for ourselves and those we remember. Decluttering can be an act of honoring the past while making space for new joys to enter. Minimalism isn't about erasing history, it's about gently choosing what deserves a place in our present. Many older adults keep things just in case. Old gadgets, linens, broken clocks, books they'll never read again. Others keep items because they're tied to precious moments in time. Wedding gifts, childhood toys, souvenirs from trips long gone. But over the years, these objects can multiply, creating stress instead of comfort. The physical effort it takes to clean and maintain a cluttered space can be exhausting. Mentally, it's draining to constantly navigate around things that no longer serve us. Emotionally, it can feel like carrying the weight of a lifetime on our shoulders. The path to peace often begins with small steps. Start with a single drawer, one shelf, a closet. Pick up each item and ask, does this bring me joy? Is this still useful? Let the answers guide you. What no longer has a place in your life can be donated, passed on to family, or simply released with gratitude. The real gift of decluttering is freedom. Freedom from mess, from decision fatigue, from emotional overload. It's the kind of freedom that gives us room to breathe, to move with ease, and to welcome whatever comes next, with an open heart and a peaceful home. 2. Minimalism in effort and mental energy. Guarding your focus. Let's face it, our energy at 70 simply isn't what it was at 30. And that's not something to lament. It's a natural part of life. The beauty of aging lies in knowing what matters and having the wisdom to let the rest go. That's why it's so important to guard your energy like the precious resource it is. Every moment, every ounce of attention, every choice of where to direct your thoughts. These things matter more than ever. In today's world, it's easier than ever to get distracted. We've all been there. A few minutes of scrolling through the phone turns into an hour. A quick look at the news turns into emotional exhaustion. A friendly conversation turns into unnecessary gossip. Even small errands can stretch into half a day of running in circles. Without realizing it, we expend more energy on things that don't enrich our lives than we care to admit. Minimalism in effort and mental energy means doing less, but doing it with more intention. It's not about being lazy or disengaged, it's about being wise. We no longer need to chase every invitation, respond to every comment, or worry about every little thing. We've earned the right to focus only on what brings us peace, purpose, and joy. Ask yourself throughout the day, does this deserve my attention? Is this task necessary or just noise? Will this activity nourish my soul or drain my spirit? These questions are gentle but powerful tools to help us steer our energy toward what truly matters. This might mean turning off the TV when the news becomes overwhelming. It might mean limiting time on social media or politely stepping away from conversations that feel more harmful than helpful. It could be choosing to sit on the porch in silence rather than rushing to a gathering you don't enjoy. Or deciding to read a good book, tend the garden, learn a new hobby, or simply rest without guilt. Minimalism in this area invites us to slow down, filter the noise, and be selective with our time and thoughts. There's great joy in doing less with more presence. There's dignity in not rushing, in not overcommitting, in giving ourselves permission to step away from the unnecessary. The truth is, we don't have to fill every hour or please every person. What we do need is clarity of mind, peace of heart, and the space to enjoy life on our own terms. That is the gift of guarding your focus. That is the wisdom of intentional living. 3. Minimalism in finances. Spending with purpose. One of the quiet freedoms of growing older is the ability to make more intentional choices, especially when it comes to money. At this stage in life, financial peace becomes more valuable than ever. We're not chasing promotions or raising children anymore. We're seeking stability, comfort, and ease. We want to feel secure, not anxious. We want to enjoy our time, not worry about bills or financial clutter. Yet, for many older adults, spending habits formed over a lifetime can be hard to break. We might keep buying things out of habit, nostalgia, or just plain convenience. Maybe it's another kitchen gadget we already have 3 versions of, or a monthly subscription that sounded interesting but never gets used. Sometimes we buy simply to fill time or silence, a quick fix for boredom or loneliness. But here's the truth. Minimalism in finances isn't about being cheap, it's about being wise. It's about aligning your spending with what really brings you joy and peace. Take a good look at where your money goes each month. Are there patterns that no longer serve you? Are you paying for more than you use? Magazines, streaming services, or memberships that no longer bring value? Are you shopping to fill a void rather than a need? Start by simplifying. Cancel what you don't need. Unsubscribe from emails that tempt you to spend unnecessarily. Choose to invest in things that last, rather than chasing trends. When you buy, buy with intention. And perhaps most importantly, spend on experiences, not just objects. That weekend visit with your grandchildren, the gardening class you've always wanted to try, or a peaceful lunch with a close friend, these are the moments that create real wealth. They linger in your memory far longer than another pair of shoes or a new phone ever will. Budgeting becomes less of a chore and more of a joy when you know what truly matters. A life where your finances match your values feels lighter, calmer, and more fulfilling. And living within your means, with a focus on purpose rather than excess, builds confidence and independence. At 70 or beyond, you've earned the right to prioritize peace over possessions. Minimalist spending is not about restriction, it's about liberation. It's about cutting away the financial noise to make room for what really counts: comfort, connection, and clarity. There's beauty in spending less, not because you have to, but because you choose to. That's real freedom. 4. Minimalism in emotions, releasing the weight of worry. When we think of decluttering, we usually picture drawers filled with old papers or closets brimming with clothes we never wear. But not all clutter can be boxed up or thrown away. Some of the heaviest clutter we carry lives inside us, in the form of regrets, grudges, worries, and unspoken fears. Emotional clutter doesn't take up space on our shelves, but it takes up space in our hearts and minds. It steals our peace, our sleep, and sometimes even our ability to enjoy the present moment. Many older adults, especially those in their 70s and beyond, carry a lifetime of memories, some joyful, some painful. We may replay moments where we wish we'd spoken up, or times when we wish we hadn't. We might feel lingering resentment from past relationships or guilt over things we cannot change. These emotions, left unchecked, quietly accumulate, weighing us down more than we realize. I remember my grandmother telling me that the hardest part of losing her husband wasn't just his absence. It was the emotional storm that followed. She questioned whether she'd done enough for him. She worried that moving on would somehow dishonor his memory. And most painfully, she felt guilty for laughing again. But over time, as she began to simplify her surroundings, donating some of his old clothes, rearranging their shared space, something unexpected happened. As the physical space cleared, her emotional space began to open up as well. She began talking more about the good times. She smiled when she mentioned his name. She stopped clinging to the what-ifs and started embracing the life she still had. That's what emotional minimalism is about. It's not about erasing your history or denying your feelings. It's about gently choosing to stop carrying what no longer serves you. You don't need to clutch onto pain to keep someone's memory alive. You don't have to hold on to fear to be careful. You don't need to relive every mistake in order to learn from it. Forgiveness plays a key role here, not just forgiving others, but forgiving yourself. For the things you did, for the things you didn't, for the times you didn't know better or couldn't do more. Choosing emotional simplicity means choosing peace over perfection. It means creating room for hope, laughter, and serenity. At this stage in life, we deserve to live lightly, not just in our homes, but in our hearts. And when we finally set down the weight of worry, we realize how much more freely we can move forward. 5. Minimalism in relationships, quality over quantity. One of the unexpected gifts of aging is clarity, especially when it comes to relationships. The older we get, the more we realize that it's not about how many people we know or how full our social calendars are. What truly matters is who shows up when it counts, who listens without judgment, and who brings peace rather than pressure into our lives. Minimalism in relationships is not about becoming isolated or withdrawn. It's about being intentional with our time and emotional energy. At this stage of life, we've earned the right to choose who we let into our circle. We no longer need to please everyone, entertain out of obligation, or keep up with people who no longer feel aligned with our values. I remember a dear friend of mine, Louise, who once had a calendar packed with social events, book clubs, lunch dates, and volunteer work. At first glance, it looked like a joyful life. But when we spoke honestly, she admitted it was exhausting. Many of the gatherings felt forced, the conversations shallow, and the connections fleeting. "It's like I'm performing," she once told me, "but I just want to be real." Eventually, Louise began to step back. She politely declined events that drained her. She stopped saying yes just to avoid disappointing others. And she focused on the relationships that made her feel safe, understood, and valued. Her world grew smaller, yes, but also deeper. She found more comfort in a cup of tea with her sister than in a dozen social engagements. Sometimes we fear that saying no or distancing ourselves from certain people makes us cold or selfish. But in truth, it's one of the kindest things we can do for ourselves and for others. Because when we are present, we're truly present. We're not distracted or resentful. We're fully there, offering our best self. Letting go of toxic relationships, one-sided friendships, or the need to always keep in touch can feel liberating. It opens the door to authentic connections, the kind that nourish us rather than deplete us. The heart of relational minimalism is simple. Less drama, more depth. Less noise, more meaning. So spend time with those who make you laugh, who listen when you speak, and who feel like home. Because at the end of the day, it's not the number of names in our address book that matters. It's the handful of souls who hold us close and remind us what love truly feels like. 6. Minimalism in information and entertainment, protecting your inner world. We live in an age where information is everywhere. On our phones, televisions, tablets, and even on the screens at the grocery store checkout line. At any given moment, we are bombarded with headlines, opinions, breaking news, advertisements, and constant updates on what everyone else is doing. It's more than just noisy, it's exhausting. As we grow older, our time and peace of mind become more precious than ever. That's why it's important to ask, how much of what I consume each day actually enriches me? Do those endless news cycles bring understanding or anxiety? Does scrolling through social media make you feel connected or left out and overwhelmed? For many of us, the habit of constantly consuming information developed slowly. We wanted to stay informed, stay connected, maybe just pass the time. But over time, it became a flood. A flood that leaves us mentally drained and emotionally agitated. And sometimes, all that outside noise begins to drown out our inner voice. Minimalism in information and entertainment means being intentional about what we let into our minds. It's not about ignorance. It's about boundaries. You don't have to know every scandal, every political argument, or every new show on TV. Choose instead to focus on what uplifts, educates, or calms you. Watch a documentary that opens your eyes to a new culture. Listen to classical music or your favorite oldies that bring you joy. Read a novel that stirs your imagination, or a poem that makes you pause and reflect. And sometimes, the best thing you can do for your mind is to turn everything off. Embrace the stillness. Sit in your favorite chair and enjoy the silence. Listen to the birds outside your window or the soft ticking of a clock. Let your mind rest. Let your thoughts settle like snow in a globe. My friend Carl, a retired teacher in his 70s, once told me, "I used to think silence was boring. Now it feels like a luxury." He gave up his 24-hour news channel, canceled a few streaming subscriptions, and started reading more, really reading, with no distractions. "I finally feel like my mind belongs to me again," he said. Protecting your inner world is not selfish. It's a gift to yourself and to those around you. When you guard your mental space, you create room for clarity, calm, and contentment. Minimalism isn't about shutting out the world. It's about choosing what truly deserves a place in yours. The beauty of a simpler life. The more we simplify, the more we uncover what matters most. Minimalism, especially after 70, is not about owning nothing. It's about being owned by nothing. You don't have to change everything overnight. Begin with one drawer, one emotion, one small decision. Bit by bit, you'll feel the weight lift. You'll breathe easier, sleep deeper, and smile more freely. Let your home reflect calm. Let your schedule allow rest. Let your heart be unburdened. Minimalism doesn't strip life of joy, it amplifies it. With less clutter, less noise, and fewer demands, what's left shines brighter. Peace, presence, love, and gratitude. As we age, we are often told to prepare for the end. But I believe these years are a chance to return to ourselves, to strip away the excess and return to the essence of life: connection, purpose, and peace. Minimalism is not a sacrifice, it's a gift. A chance to live the next chapter with fewer distractions, fewer burdens, and more of what makes you feel truly alive. It's a chance to find beauty in simplicity, joy in the ordinary, and wisdom in quiet moments. To spend less time maintaining things and more time making memories. To focus less on having more and more on being whole. So, if you're over 70 and wondering whether it's too late to change, it's not. In fact, there's no better time. The path to peace is paved not with more, but with less. Let this be your invitation to begin. One step, one breath, one choice at a time. Because sometimes the greatest comfort isn't in adding more to your life, it's in gently letting go.